Welcome back to Moving with Meaning. I'm your host, Krystal. This month, we are turning inward to explore the roots of confidence, resilience, and emotional clarity in leadership. The Inner Sunshine series is your go-to summer glow up for the soul. We're talking about the kind of leadership that doesn't just look good on paper, but feels good from the inside out. Over the next 5 episodes, we'll explore how nurturing your internal world helps you lead with purpose, balance, and unwavering self-trust. That means each week we help you boost your bounce back skills, calm the chaos in your head, and unlock leadership vibes that actually feel like you. It's time to lead with clarity, sass, and a whole lot of sunshine. In today's episode, we dive into the battle between your inner critic and your inner coach. One sabotages your confidence with doubt and fear. The other encourages, guides, and reminds you of your capability. Recognizing the difference is the first step toward leading with self-trust. That's why I've called this episode the inner critic versus the inner coach. Ever had that voice in your head tell you you're not good enough? Or that you've messed up again? Yeah, we all know that uninvited guest, the inner critic. But what if we could swap that buzzkill with someone way cooler? Your inner coach. In this episode, we shine a light on that inner dialogue and teach you how to spot when your inner critic is still in the mic. You'll learn how to turn down the volume on self-doubt and crank up the confidence with practical tools that feel less like therapy homework and more like pep talks in your pocket. So let's get started with our quick summary. Recognizing and reframing the inner critic is a vital step toward building authentic confidence and emotional resilience. Left unchecked, this voice can sabotage opportunities, stall progress, and keep you playing small. But when you shift from self-judgment to self-coaching, you activate clarity, courage, and growth. Reframing isn't about silencing the voice. It's about changing the conversation. It's choosing encouragement over criticism, curiosity over fear, and possibility over perfection. By learning to coach yourself through doubt, you become a leader who doesn't just speak confidently, but thinks confidently too. Yeah, you know what? I really like this. And the reason I like all of this self-trust vibe and deep dives is really because I really and truly promote curiosity. I think I even have a tagline on my LinkedIn profile where it's basically crafting change through curiosity. I promote curiosity-driven leadership, and it's just really about aligning your values. It's about giving you the opportunity to showcase your empathy and your compassion through your leadership and really developing a level of trust with your team. Okay. And I think that's truly how you really bond with everyone, is to look and ask these questions and then kind of come back and say, hey, what makes you tick, right? What's your vibe? What's important to you? And then go from there, right? I think that's really important. If you really listen to people and let them talk and hear what they're saying, they're telling you everything about their life that they value. And I think that's really important. Now, obviously, we're going to go through the same path that we always do. And part of this is obviously understanding the benefits about doing this activity. And really, it's going to be talking about recognizing and reframing that sabotaging voice inside your head isn't just like, it isn't self-help fluff, right? It's not about all of that. It's a leadership game changer. And you know what? Here's a few points why. Number one, rebuild confidence. When you recognize your inner critic, you can stop believing its lies. You'll step into rooms like you belong. Well, you know what? Because you do. Ain't that something? I really believe that. I know a lot of people look for belonging, and sometimes they measure their belonging or value by what other people say. And that's not true. The moment that you are able to step and walk into any room, you belong there. You were there for a purpose. You were there for a reason. You've been invited. Of course, we all talk about like creating our table or building our own table. Of course, we do that day in and day out and invite others into our space for sure. But a lot of times we start with just walking into someone else's table and walking into that room. And you better believe that you exude confidence just as much as you exude doubt. Okay. So make sure that despite anything, it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to kind of say, that's a great question. I don't know. I haven't thought about that. So that's a great perspective, et cetera, et cetera. So always look at it from a very much of a humble and confident perspective. All right. Second one, strengthens resilience. Instead of spiraling after setbacks, you bounce back with grace and perspective. Isn't that funny? We just led into this one perfectly because they all build on each other. They complement each other. Okay. One benefit isn't enough, honey. There's got to be more than that. And we give you this. And that's true about resilience. And I always say that there's a difference between intelligence and resilience, primarily because intelligence is for sure being aware, but being able to get back up and get back to, get after you get knocked down. And even if that happens multiple times in different areas, things like that, it can tend to wear on you. And it really attacks you mentally and emotionally for sure. It can be a huge morale demotivator and so on and so forth. But your ability to really look at yourself and perform that positive self-talk that, look, I got this. I'm made for this. I'm built for this. That keeps you coming back for more, right? And I think that's really important for folks to not only show themselves this, but obviously it shows the world. Number 3, it improves relationships. When you speak kindly to yourself, you show up more grounded for others too. Yes. So I think it's incredibly important that we can talk about ourselves very well. Okay, in a space that we know who we are. And even when we're speaking to ourselves, we're not demeaning ourselves. We're not being discouraging. We're not being hard on ourselves, things like that. We're compassionate to ourselves. We're kind to ourselves. I think even those words are very simple, but they're very powerful and they're very important because, to be honest with you, I mean, if you can't speak to yourself that way, I don't know why you would expect others to do it for you. Right? So it always starts with yourself. And when you show up for yourself, you show up for others as well. I know people say that it's cliche and things like that. And we do it so well, right? Where we're showing up for others while we're putting ourselves on the back burner. But the thing about that is that that's unsustainable. There's no way you can keep going on that. Like, you're literally wearing yourself out. And like we talked about in the previous episode, but it's about running on fumes. You cannot continue to do this. And so I think we get off on the right path and we make this change today by starting with ourselves and just saying a few kind words to ourselves every day helps build up that momentum and that habit. Now, let's talk about this. How can we spot the inner critic in action? And I think I want to talk about what that really sounds like. A lot of times I think I can get caught up in describing what this looks like, but what does it sound like? And I think it's important to talk about what it sounds like because we say this stuff to ourselves all the time and we tend to be embarrassed. But when we say it out loud and we recognize it, it's kind of like, wow, I've been there. And these are in various different places. So the first example I'm going to give you is at work. And so this is, you've got an idea in a meeting. We've all been there. And you hesitate to speak up because you tell yourself, hey, this idea isn't good enough. So just stay quiet. Don't say it up, embarrass yourself. Or you're not experienced enough to share. And this happens quite often. I know this was for me very early in my career. And it was just, I just didn't have the experience. And I think no one would respect me because they knew I didn't. But that's the thing about it is new ideas, new people, and from different stages in their career bring that innovation, right? It's not necessarily a practice rhythm or experience, right? Or anything that they've experienced previously that they're bringing from one to the next. For some folks who have never experienced that, even them just bringing up the idea gives us the opportunity to discuss why that's possible, why it's not. So we're all learning in that same capacity. So I really think that this happens way too frequently. And I know for myself, it has. I mean, even in where I'm at now, I probably wouldn't say certain things just because I'm concerned. But we get caught up in like, don't ask the dumb question or anything like that. And there really isn't a dumb question. And if you feel like the answer is coming across, or the response makes you feel like it was a dumb question, I think keep pushing those boundaries, keep asking those questions, because there is a gap somewhere. And at some point, you're going to have to feel comfortable to do additional research or to speak privately. Maybe you don't want to have and ask these questions in such an open forum. Perhaps maybe that's something. Okay, then approach that person privately and just have a separate chat about it. Right? Anything is possible, and you move the way your body tells you, the mind tells you, in the state of comfort. But I can guarantee you one thing: you need to speak up and ask them doggone questions. All right, next example is going to be in social settings. You replay a conversation in your head, picking apart every word you said, convinced you sounded awkward or too much. Or you think, why did I say that? I probably annoyed everyone. Yes, we've all been there. And so for me, I know as I'm speaking here and I'm by myself, I seem like an extrovert. I speak on stages, I run workshops, I do everything. Okay, I'm an advisor on data management strategies, all those things. And I seem like an extrovert, right? And in those contexts, I'm not. But when I'm working by myself or doing work or things like that, and kind of meandering, I'm an introvert. I'm not a great, in my opinion, I'm not a great networker. I think I do network, but I just feel so awkward sometimes because it's just, sometimes people's energies are just draining. Sometimes I have to really be in a particular mood, which is rare, to just engage in conversation. And that tends to play and run through my head. And there are others who are just extremely extroverted, but still overthink the conversation that they're having. And there are those who don't, and you're kind of thinking maybe they should. Either way, right? We want to get over that and just really be confident in who we are. Okay, we're not going to question who we are, and if we said something, if we said something that it maybe it came across too much, or it was misinterpreted a certain way, they own the opportunity to either continue to engage with you and to address that so that you can fix those scenarios, right? Or fix those interactions and give you that opportunity for that. But you know what? It's here and there. It's on both sides of the coin. So I want to make sure that we look at this and kind of say, wow, in these social settings, do I say these things to myself? Okay. Now, the way I look at that, that's not just awareness. That's your inner critic on loudspeaker talking and yelling at you. And we want to make sure that we figure out how we determine that that's the inner critic, and why we tend to confuse inner critic with the inner coach. Because sometimes when we've gotten used to constantly critiquing ourselves, we think that that's like our inner vibe going off and saying, hey, this is a gut check, this is your intuition. And no, it's not. All right. But the truth is, most of us mistake our inner critic for our inner coach because, one, we confuse criticism with accountability. And remember what I just mentioned earlier, right? Is that did someone misinterpret what I said because their reaction wasn't what I was anticipated? Okay, if that's the case, that individual should be more accountable to, talk to you. I don't want to say confront you or whatever else, but to come to you separately and say, hey, about that question, it felt like you were, your response seemed a bit condescending for these reasons. Or I want to make sure that we continue to engage in a way that promotes growth and unity. So perhaps this or that, whatever, right? You can't change anything that you don't know about. It's just what that is, okay? And different people respond to different tones and to different levels of confidence and degrees of that, okay? And so sometimes we'll end up talking around the scenario instead of just coming straight head on about it, so that we can get over that bridge. Okay. But yeah, a lot of times, I mean, man, I've been critiqued a lot, just outwardly, like, by your parents, by teachers, by bosses, mentors, and things of that nature. And yeah, there are certain times when they were right, and I bear the responsibility and the accountability to make those shifts and those changes. But I take it negatively, and so now I start to talk to myself. Oh, be careful! You don't want to sound too much this way or that way. Don't do that. Okay. Once you have become aware of something, just be accountable. There's nothing in embarrassing about growth and making those different small tweaks and changes. Okay. And just keeping those reminders coming up, but change the tone, change the narrative, change the words. Also, we were taught that being hard on ourselves equals being humble. Yes, I have. I'm not going to say I've been taught. It may have been just, maybe it was being taught. I don't know. But I can just tell you that just at an early age, especially with my mother, she was always telling me to be careful with how I sounded and the words that I use and the way I spoke and things of that nature, because you don't want anyone to feel less than, right? Because we're all equal. I mean, she was really big on that. My dad was less so. He was like, no, you are a genius, right? And so I had two different parents speaking certain things to me, and I just, in my head, I took the lesser of the two, the more negative of the one, because one was just so offensive, and I did not want to do that with anyone else. And so for quite a lot of years, that's just what I assumed was basically being quiet, and not being myself, and having, I'm a very gregarious person. I'm a very sarcastic individual. I like to laugh a lot, so I joke a lot, but I didn't do that a lot for a really long time, because I just thought, man, people are just not gonna like that. And that's totally wasn't true. As soon as I let myself out and let myself go and be free and who I wanted to be, it was a blast. So just think about it. Okay. The last one is the voice sounds familiar, like us, but it's often outdated, influenced by past experiences, fear, or even family conditioning. All right, so this lends to the early above, but yes, even in those cases, yeah, you know what? There are certain moments in my time being raised in my family where there were certain things that topics were kind of just off limits, and that was just because it was triggering to them. There were certain times where, again, like I said, I've been critiqued by my boss before, and it just did not sit well with me. And so I would just all of a sudden make that part of my identity and how I communicate and things of that nature, instead of just taking about accountability to shift. There's nothing wrong with what I did. Maybe it was just how I did it. So making sure to kind of call on those and make sure that we're just constantly revisiting those, but to definitely push aside anything that's outdated or limiting beliefs, so that you can obviously move forward, right? We don't want anything shackling us to the past. Nah. All right. Now here's some daily practices to reinforce self-compassion in leadership. And the real thing about it is, let's be practical. So I want to make sure that I, at least if anything, like I told you, is I give you benefits and then I give you some of the drawbacks. I always want to lead you off with a few quick ways to bring more compassion into your daily leadership. Number one, name the critic. Sounds like a game show, but give that voice a name. Perfectionist Pam, judgmental Jerry, whatever. So you can separate from it and disarm its power. Isn't that important? It's almost like there's a different personality inside you. Yes, recognize it, call it by its name, and then say, now I'm going to do this in the name of, insert your name here, and go forth with that attitude. Number two, start with a self-compliment. So start your day with one empowering statement out loud. I'm capable and learning every day. Or, I handle tough conversations with care. Or, I learn fast and grow faster. So whichever one, those are just some examples, but whichever one fills you up that day and what you need, do it. Say it to yourself. You deserve it. It's almost a way of daily affirmations, but in this case, this is the one that you are creating for yourself in that moment. It's not one that's set up and scheduled for you to read that day or anything. This one is what you need for today, and only you know what that is. And the last one, success journaling. Y'all know I love this because I like writing, but here we go. Write down one win, big or small, every evening. Train your mind to spot progress. Isn't that something? And I like the fact that we talk about this at the end of the day. Not only at the end of the day, at the end of the evening. So it doesn't have to even be work related. It could be that you got a bill paid that day, or you got a couple extra errands ran that day that you didn't anticipate to do later that day, which freed up some more time. Whatever it is, okay? It's a success, and you give yourself a tap on the back on that, right? I always tell you, celebrate milestones. That goes for both professional and personal contexts. Now, what I want to do is also quickly brief us on some additional tools we can use as far as adding to those strategies above. And what this will do is it will help amplify your inner coach, right? We're all talking about that speaker, okay? Because it's loud in our voices in our heads. So we want to amplify the real one, all right? So if we want to turn up the volume on our inner coach, we're going to try these tools. Mindfulness journals. So again, back to journaling, but this is a little bit deeper, okay? Going back to the times when you were growing up with your diary. But reflect on how you speak to yourself. Are you fueling fear or confidence? Next one, voice notes to self. This is interesting. Some people do this really well. I'm not such a big fan on voice notes, but I've received them before and I've given them out, and they are pretty actually amazing. But record encouraging reminders in your own voice and listen when you need a reset. Hey, you know what? Those affirmations I was talking about that were scheduled out and written, say them now and record them in your own voice so that you can replay them to yourself, hearing you say that to you. I think that's awesome. Might try that. Next, self-compassion breaks. So when things get stressful, take 60 seconds to say, this is hard and I'm doing my best. Yes, we do need to kind of take a minute to kind of say when something, and I work in code and I am a developer. And there are times where I'm writing code and I'm trying to fix one issue, just one thing. And I've been doing it for an hour and I cannot get it. Even to the point where I'll get so close and I'm missing something. I have to get up and go like, wait a second. This isn't, like, I need a minute, right? And it has nothing to do, because if I keep staying in there, right, I will just abandon it. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I don't think I'm capable. It's just I'm getting there, okay? And it's just taking me a lot longer than I anticipated. And sometimes, you know, I think highly of myself, and I think I can solve issues pretty fast. I'm normally good at that, but when something takes me a little bit longer than what I'm used to, I can get down on myself. And I will tell you, I'll get up, take a break, walk around. I might follow laundry. If I'm in the office, I'll go to the break room, I don't know, look at some snacks or something like that, make some tea, come back, and all of a sudden the idea pops in my head and I'm like, that's what it was. So you are always capable of doing the job, okay? And you are always doing your best. You're always giving it your all. Lastly, mentor mirror technique. So you're going to mentor your mind. Ask yourself, what would I say to someone I love if they felt this way? Now, give yourself that same grace. I extremely love that one because I think it's just, again, it reinforces being kind to yourself, being compassionate to yourself, and it also pulls on what you do for others so that you can call attention to that and say, okay, I deserve that too, okay? All right. I enjoyed this episode. I'm looking forward to all these next Inner Sunshine series episodes that's coming up into this playlist that I have set up for you guys. But I'm going to leave you with this motivational message, and I hope you leave with this with several inspirational thoughts. It's something that just kind of keeps you going throughout your day. All right. Let's trade the megaphone of criticism for the microphone of compassion. You're not being dramatic. You're being honest. You're not being soft. You're being human. Your inner voice does have power. The good news, you get to train it, reframe it, raise it to the level of the leader you're becoming. You don't need a perfect resume or a 10-step plan to start building confidence. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You just have to start being kinder to the one voice that matters most, your own. So next time that inner critic starts chirping, remember this: if you wouldn't say it to a friend, why say it to yourself? I love that. Accountability to yourself. Isn't that something about self-trust? I love that. All right. As a reminder, if you want more of me that delve into deeper topics, check out my podcast, Moving With Me in the Podcast. I am on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube Music. Check out my website, movingwithmeaning.com. Also, if you are interested in my path to emotional resilience, I wrote my business memoir that takes you on my 8-year journey in a tough, competitive environment. You can find it on Amazon by the title Embrace the Code: Cultivating Emotional Resilience in a Tough IT Culture. Here is my graphic with all of my social media connections. Hit your girl up or just follow along. Maybe something will pop out at you. Also, if you are particularly inspired by any of my conversations or episodes and think this would be a good match for your next event, I'm your gal. Or are you interested in converting this into a workshop? Hey, I got you covered. Perhaps this is right in line with your experience and want to partner with me to add a bit more oxygen to the spark. I'm your coach. And maybe finding the right words for your own memoir or ebook had you all balled up in knots. I'm the ghostwriter that can put your thoughts and ideas to paper. If any of those strike your interest and you want to talk more, take the first step and book me completely free using this QR code. All right. As always, I really enjoyed having this conversation with you guys today, and I look forward for many, many, many more of those in this series and what's to come down the line. As always, be blessed, and until I meet you again, hey, just keep moving.